Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, this is your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast. This is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs, running them and playing them. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to the hobby, and we just like to talk about the games that we play and the games that we run, and just so you can maybe jump into the hobby or decide to take up the mantle of GM for your gaming group.
Exactly. So this week we've got a Pathfinder session to recap that I wanted to sort of get into the details of. It was a pretty fun session, and a lot of it was sort of by the seat of my pants, but it turned out pretty well. But before we get into that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week.
Yes, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week. Brought to you by Ramon. So hey guys, for this week, it's gonna be pretty short. We're gonna talk about like player expectations. I haven't to be honest with you, I haven't GM'd to the audience. Hello, to be honest with you, Calvin knows. I haven't GM'd in a long time, but I know there's a misalignment between what GM's expectations are and the players' expectations are. Don't worry about that stuff. That stuff's just gonna happen. But you just kind of keep on trucking and it'll all work itself out. As long as you're kind of open to what your players are putting out into the game and kind of adjust your plan, then you'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and I think as long as you're communicating about what you want to do, even if something comes up that you're not really happy with, just as long as you are able to sort of set those expectations and figure out where everybody is, not create that mystery relationship between DM and player where one hand doesn't know what the other is doing. Yeah.
As well as even if a player walks away from a game not feeling the greatest, that session could have gone better, they're never going to remember that session. They're only going to remember the good ones. So don't sweat it if it wasn't a banger. Not all of them have to be bangers. Sometimes you just kind of got to get through some stuff.
Yeah, that is how it goes sometimes.
For sure. There you go, folks. There's your Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week.
All right. So this week, we've got a few games in the bin to talk about, but one that I wanted to discuss was Fateseer, which is a game that I've been running it's a pretty small group relatively compared to other games I've been in. Because it's just last time it was just a couple of people, and it started off with just a couple of people, but Ramon has been in it as well. The main point of this campaign is essentially an escort quest. I put the players on one side of the map and told them they have to get to the other side.
Yeah, classic Calvin road trip.
Indeed.
Calvin will do everything in his power to slow you down and bog you down with random shit.
It's so I can calculate travel time properly.
Gotta pay the cart tax. You gotta figure out the route. Do all the math, man.
I really should add a tax to the cart system. This amazing public transit system that I've created.
Well, I'm surprised that the local rulers or whatever don't just ask for a tax on the cart. This cart monopoly.
Yeah, I really should jack up the fees, to be honest.
Yeah, because if you think about it, right, it's it's pretty safe passage, I think, for the most part. I actually don't remember the last time I traveled in your world, but I think carts don't really get attacked that often.
I have the same table, but it's significantly less likely to have a hostile encounter.
Yeah, you should have I don't know who owns which part of the world or whatever, right? I'm assuming that things are a little bit separated, but I feel like if you're close to a big just if you have a place that's really safe, they should be charging tax.
Yeah,
because somebody's trying very hard to employing
to
keep it that way. Hiring adventurers or whatnot to do it. So that money has come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to take a look at that. I think just certain regions will be more expensive to travel through.
Yeah, it might be something to workshop in the background, maybe for the next Crown or whatever campaign you run in your world.
True. But yeah, aside from that, basically what they have been doing is the party was assigned this young gnome girl to take care of. And a message from a dying priest told them to bring her to a location on the other side of the map. And they're a couple towns away at this point. But when we last left them, they ended up getting ambushed in the middle of a city market. And they managed to survive that fight, but it was pretty brutal. Someone should have worked on the balance of that encounter. Not me, though. So we started off with Brima, the gnome girl, healing up the group. The group being Solo, a human bard, and Dolorfek, a dwarven fighter. Solo was sort of asking questions to Brima because Brima had used the Bone Shaker spell at the end of the combat last session. And it was probably the most powerful damaging spell she's ever used, because she usually does like support stuff. And she was just like, it's been interesting, like trying to play off this NPC and like try not to fall into the trap of her being like a DM PC, even though I really like Brima.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a small party, so it's kind of like everybody kind of expects, like, Brima's answers are usually like what the players expect Brima's answers to be anyway. Yeah. So it's like, it's fine.
And also, no one ever plays cleric, so.
Last time I did, I died. So I cannot play a cleric. I cannot be the healer ever. Every time I've tried to be a healer, my cleric actually dies. I think every single cleric I've ever played has actually died within like 1 or 2 sessions, as well as every fighter. I can't play a fighter or a cleric. For the past, like, I don't know, decade or whatever I've been playing this hobby.
Just play a champion and mix them and see what happens.
I can't. I don't know, man. I think it's Wizard or Bust for me. Yeah, it's like, it is too risky. I only play like wizards and rogues, and I think I played an alchemist pretty successfully, except that guy died right at the end. Yeah, I played monks, I think, pretty successfully. But
how do you have so many dead characters? This isn't even counting Lancer.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know. I just
because you take those big risks.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not very good at risk. I'm not a gambler. I just go. I just try. I was like, I don't know. Like, fair enough. Yeah, there's no calculations. It's just like, I am a hero. They're usually pretty heroic deaths, I think. Or at least I imagine them to be. They're probably pretty stupid if you went back. I probably should have just ran away, but
I mean,
whatever.
They can be both.
Yeah, I also get pretty like bored of characters pretty fast for some reason. I'm just like, if the campaign goes on for a little bit too long, and I'm like, I could probably use a different character. Like,
it's because you spend so much time as a DM, you're not used to playing one character.
That's true. That is actually the thing, where it's just like, I'm so ready to try something new all the time, right? So yeah, I mean, there's only one character, which is a rogue character that I played pretty much up until the end, and that was, I think, the only character really, except for there's like a very small number of characters, I should say, that ever made it to the end of a campaign in my, I guess, yeah, all the games I played.
Your career, yeah.
My career. I was like, is it my career? Did I earn anything?
You could call it that.
In my career. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, don't worry about DM PCs. What are we talking about?
Dolorfek and Solo and Brima, and how they had been brought in by the city guard after the ruckus that was caused. Dolorfek was listening at the door, trying to hear what the guards were saying, and he just caught snippets of their conversation saying that like they weren't sure who started the fight, but they had taken the bodies of like these cultist figures that had attacked the party.
Yeah.
So yeah, as they were waiting to see what would happen, in walks this dwarven guard lieutenant, Mirdish Talbart, and she was asking some questions, trying to see exactly what was happening in her city. She mentioned some symbols that were on the cultists, that were sort of not symbols that they recognized. So she was wondering, like, who are these people? Why were they attacking you? Why was there a fight in the middle of the city? But it became clear that the party were the ones who were attacked, so she was still suspicious of them, but allowed them to leave. And they did get some extra help getting patched up with some of the more official city clerics before they left, because they were still pretty rough.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, it's not their fault that they were attacked. Like
Exactly.
right?
That's pretty much the conclusion that she came to, but she was also just like keeping an eye on them.
Fair.
So they headed back to the Lucky Nugget Inn, where Baruth and Koyel were still hanging out. Baruth, of course, being Ramon's monk, half-orc monk, and Koyel is a tiefling that the party picked up along the way when they were traveling.
Yeah. I don't know how long Baruth is gonna stick in the party. I mean, he was just there to kind of travel with them.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got a cool girlfriend now, so he might just dip. Like,
I mean, they were literally at the point where, because Baruth had plans to go to a place called Gandaline because there was like a fighting tournament going on there. And where they are on the map, they're pretty much at the point where they would have to split up because the party is going further north, or at least Brima has to go somewhere further north, and Gandaline is like east of where they are.
yeah, and as well, I think there was some other sorry, I forget the tiefling's name, but
Koyel.
Koyel. So Koyel also had to go to an observatory by a specific time because of some I forget what it was. Was it an eclipse or something, or was it?
Yeah, there was like a particular astral event she wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Her timeline had a bit more space to it, because the fighting tournament was within like the next week or so.
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable with Ruth just kind of leaving the party, and if
that is kind of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to shoehorn a reason for this man to be like, yeah, I'll keep going with you guys, other than like we're friends. But it's like I think, they travel enough with him, and if it comes to it that Ramon needs another character in to play with you guys, then I'll just make something up if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
but
fine.
I feel like you guys got it. Like, only a couple towns, like. You don't need me.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I was only brought in as like, Calvin's like, I think I made this fight too hard. Ramon, please show up.
Pretty much. And then your character died, so that was pretty clear.
It was. I took the L for the team. I was like a season 1 side character. It's fine.
So yeah, Baruth might be going on to do his own thing, but
I kind of like being like the side character to other people's main character stories. Like, it's like so much more chill. I get really stressed out when my character becomes like the main focus. Not in the sense of like leading a team, but it's just like I have to deal with my shit. Mm-hmm. So it's just like I'd rather just be the side character of someone's story sometimes than being the kind of the main character. So,
and then you don't have to be the same character.
Yeah, I know. I could just change it up and get a new funny accent and just be like, haha,
someone else.
Now I'm this today.
But yeah, they were just waiting overnight to make plans for the next day. Baruth and Koyel were sharing one room. Delorfek, Solo, and Brima were in another. And at that night, Solo had another visit because he's been haunted for the past few days by this demonic succubus entity.
Haunted is like a...
I don't know if haunted is the right word, but watch it very closely.
Yeah. Coerced? She's been coercing him for a while now.
Yeah. So she showed up, and she gave Solo a warning about an entity by the name of Gorziniath, her brother, and also the one that was sort of in charge of those cultists that attacked them in the city. Or at least the one those cultists are following.
Oh, okay.
But during the course of that conversation, I had Delorfek and Brima rolling some perception checks. Brima failed her check, which is a first for her, but she was also asleep. But Delorfek managed to overhear that there was someone else in the room with them. And as he went for his weapons, the succubus Zarnella just disappeared, leaving a trail of smoke behind. Which Delorfek did manage to catch a glimpse of. And he just swung his axe around for a moment just in case she was there but invisible.
Nice. It's not a double check. I'm gonna go back to bed.
Just in case.
Damn you, weird smoke.
So there was a brief argument with a loud whisper, and Solo just said that they can talk about what happened in the morning, and Delorfek was just watching Solo until he fell asleep. So it was kind of a tense morning. So the next day, Brima, she got up, she got out of bed, she went to Perutha Koyel's room. Which last time she did, she almost interrupted them in the middle of something private. Which very nearly happened again off screen.
Funny.
But I mean, you know, they got a room to themselves. They got nothing else to do. They're in a big city.
Yeah, you know, we're adults here.
Exactly. They're two good-looking people.
Yeah. We're all adults here.
Except for Brima.
Except for Brima. This is true. Poor Brima. But yeah.
So after that, they went to go get some breakfast. Dolorfic made a comment about wanting sausages. But more importantly, they had a conversation about the woman who has been visiting Solo. And Solo revealed that the woman was also asking about Brima for what seemed like her own purposes. And their whispered conversation at the shared table was suddenly less whispered as Dolorfic slammed his fist on the table, wanting to know, like, why all of this was happening and why Solo hadn't said anything and all of that.
Yeah.
And the others were like, because Koyel was going on about some sort of astrology thing that Brima was like very much paying attention to, so no one else was really listening to this conversation until the point where Dolorfic like slammed his fist on the table. And after they sort of put together that the woman was a demon, there was one quote that I wrote down, which was like, "Solo, have you ever stopped to think?" And then before Dolorfic could finish that sentence, Solo was just like, "Nope."
I've never thought about anything in my life.
It was just very funny.
Oh man. Solo's got the mad himbo energy, like.
Exactly.
Never thought about anything.
But yeah, at that point, Dolorfic just kind of told everyone else what Solo had said, and they realized that Solo was being like tracked by this demonic entity, which Brima was super scared and worried about because I mean, from her perspective, the demon was after them because of her. Oh
yeah, true. But I mean, that just means that like you're running out of time. You should probably get to where you're going.
Yeah. Solo did manage to cheer Brima up, and then Brima was pretty resolute about wanting to help Solo. So the party ended up having to stay in town another day because they were going to do some research. Although Baruth did suggest that they not stay in one place for too long, knowing that someone is following them. So in the meantime, some of them went to the library just to do some research on like demonic possession.
Hello, Mr. Librarian. Can I have all of your books on demons and devils and evil things? Thanks much. We're doing some research for a class project.
Pretty much. So while Brima and Solo were doing some research on the ritual they needed, Dolorfic was just checking to see if anyone else was still following them, and he actually spotted Lieutenant Talbert, who was still like keeping a watch over them. One, to see if they get attacked again, but two, to see if they were actually up to something.
Yeah, you know, he's just trying to keep the peace, you know?
Exactly.
He's being a good cop.
But after that encounter, they headed to So, this area that they're in right now, this place called Claris, this entire region has different cities and towns that are largely focused on different deities in the Pathfinder pantheon that I sort of borrowed for this world. So the city they're in now, Tiriane, is more focused on worship of Abadar, who is sort of like this god of commerce. So they were heading to a place called the Scales of Abadar, which is basically a mix between a bank and a cathedral. Mm-hmm. So heading up there, it's like a very busy place because on one hand you've got like the largest bank in the city, but on the other hand you've got like the center of the religious community in the city. So it was a very busy place, but they did briefly get an audience with the priest manager Rem Rudon. This very
Rem Rudon?
Yeah.
Remrodon. That sounds like a Godzilla character, you know. This is Remrodon. Oh.
I mean, kind of. This very slick, like, he's got like those super fancy priest robes, but they also sort of look like a mix between robes and a suit.
Ooh, okay.
And
Nice,
they
nice. I love my church with bank.
that's basically what it is. They were also, of course, keeping an eye out for anybody who might have been like following them or whatever. There were some people staring because, you know, this is a big city. This is the nicest place in the city. Most of the people here are pretty fancily dressed, so seeing just some ragtag adventurers, they did get some looks.
Yeah, a couple of rat catchers rolling deep, like in the nice neighborhood.
Exactly.
All like covered in dirt and blood and stuff. We're like, oh hey.
Yeah, they were in a sewer like a few days ago. So.
Yeah.
But Delorfic just subtly displayed his knife, so they all pretty much turned away.
Damn, man.
We don't want these problems.
Hardcore, man. Yeah. There was like, you don't want to catch the smoke dog, like back off.
Exactly. But after informing Grudon that they needed a ritual performed, they were led into a separate room by a priest by the name of Wilric. And they were left alone for a bit, and then Wilric returned. He brought along some food because they requested like something to eat and whatever. But he was acting very oddly when he returned. Trying the food, Delorfic was the first one to try some of the food, and he ended up having to roll a fortitude save, which he passed pretty easily, and then just complained a bit about the service.
Shit. Oh no. I was gonna say, I was like, you didn't gas him, did you? I was like,
No.
Yes, come to this waiting room secretly with all these vent pipes. You know?
That would have been a good trap, but no, instead, Wilric sort of moved towards the door and locked it, and then he turned around, and we could see his body like shuddering and shaking, and then his head snapped back. He made like these heaving sounds as if he was throwing up, and then sort of starting from like his mouth, the top of his body burst open as this worm creature like burst out of the top of his body.
What is this Resident Evil shit? Oh God, this is an escort quest.
Exactly. Oh, but then it attacked. And they ended up having to fight like this demonic worm creature that had been implanted into this priest's body. It did get some heavy blows in, but the party was able to take it down. It was a kind of a... I was hoping for... So the map that I had set up for this, I thought it was going to be used for something else in a different location. Like this whole thing where they went to do the ritual, I did not prepare for, to be completely honest. Like I knew the ritual they had to use, I just didn't think it was gonna be like happening here. So like I had a map for like, because I knew the next couple of places they could go. So I had like, okay, here's a map for something that might happen over here, and here's a map for something that'll happen over here. And then I quickly had to rework the map that I had in like this blacksmith shop to be like the waiting room in this cathedral bank.
Nice.
But I think it worked out pretty well. But yeah, they did manage to succeed in this battle. Rembrudon showed up, seeing the damage, and he seemed very like... He did make apologies. He was very sad about what happened to the priest Wilric, who was kind of new. Yeah. But he did also promise to perform the ritual himself. So after getting someone to, you know, clean things up there and moving to a different room, they performed the ritual, which required essentially 2 people to cast, to make, like, checks. So Rudon was, like, the primary caster on it, and Solo, being involved in this, had to be the secondary caster on it.
Interesting, okay.
So, essentially what Solo is doing is making, like, an assist check to the primary casting on the ritual, which had a fairly high DC, which unfortunately Solo crit failed. Which... So, Zarnilla had her claws deep. So, under, at least if I was understanding the rules correctly. If I wasn't, someone can correct me. But it basically brings the primary caster's success level down by 1 step.
Shoot.
Fortunately for them, Rudon rolled a natural 20.
Oh, I guess he is the head priest.
He is.
He's like, yo, God, what's up? And he's like, I got you, fam. Don't worry.
Let's get that out of here. So while that normally would have been a crit success because of Solo's failure, it was just a normal success.
That's hilarious.
So they did manage to sever Solo's connection with Zarnilla, which I did not expect. I had some ideas about what might happen if they got to the last location with the demon still in tow, but we'll see where that goes now, because now that the connection is gone, she can't just, like, be with them at all times.
Shit, she has to, like, can't call him no more.
Yeah.
Like, she's gotta go see him. Oh, man, that'd be nuts.
She's gotta make some effort now.
Yeah. Oh, she should just, like, stalk him. That'd be pretty funny. Just, like, but, like, always with somebody else's body or something like that. It's like, it just comes like a stalker ex-lover. Just be like, you'll never lose me.
How
Solo.
dare you? You can't break
But
up
Solo,
with me.
Yeah, but Solo never knows who it is. So every time Solo tries to, like, talk up somebody, you never know who it's gonna be.
Yeah, I maybe. There's, like, an immunity for a certain amount of time after the connection is severed, but I think it'll be more interesting just to have her, like, in the background somewhere trying to get back.
It's pretty funny, man.
And then, yeah, they got some pamphlets for Abizar, and then Rudon was like, the master of the first vault will always put you first, giving them this little slogan as he headed off. And, yeah, like, a lot of what happened with that whole thing was just kind of me repurposing something I prepared for another location. Because I wanted to use the worm demon guy, and I had a map, because I thought the thing might happen somewhere else. But it didn't, so I kind of had to rework some things. But it turned out pretty well.
Nice.
Especially, like, doing the ritual and nearly failing. I think that was very good. That's a very good moment of letting the dice tell the story, because the demonic connection ran pretty deep in Solo, but Rudon is the head priest here, so.
Yeah, he's like, not today, Satan.
Literally.
So now, Solo's all free?
Yeah.
No strings attached.
I mean,
flying solo as he does.
I guess he is. Although, I gotta say, I don't think Zarnilla is gonna give up that easily, because she did want Brima for her own purposes.
Oh, what is Brima's purpose? Secrets.
There's at least 2 demons after her.
That's like too many. Like, this poor girl.
So, and then that night they headed back to the inn. They did meet. So when they were heading into the city, they did run into another traveling bard. And he was staying at that inn that night. So they just, they did like a little performance together. They had some discussions over where they're heading next. Things like that. The morning came. They did have to say goodbye to Baruth and Koyel, who were heading in one direction while they were heading in another. And I don't know, maybe they will come back. Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe. I guess we'll see. Maybe, I don't know. Bruce could just be like a named NPC if you want.
Ooh, that could be fun. I will make notes.
That's always like this is the secret second tip in the episode. If your players just want to change characters or leave or whatever, or at the end of the campaign, just turn those player characters into non-player characters, and now you get to have someone cool that the players outside of the characters might not know, but the players are happy to see again.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if Bruce showed up like 20 sessions later, they'd be like, "Oh, it's Bruce."
Yeah, actually something similar did come up in the Crown of Dragons campaign that we'll talk about sometime in the future.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, it was a very heartwarming goodbye. But they headed off eastward, and the party kept going north. So where they're trying to go is the capital of the region, Silver Hill, where they're trying to meet with this basically a paladin or champion in Pathfinder terms, by the name of Fandrovo Jane, who is an old friend of the priest that was taking care of Brima. And yeah, so basically they were just heading off on a carriage that way north, and I rolled a random encounter. They ended up coming across a carriage that was under attack by some plant creatures. Although when they got close, they realized the plant creatures were extremely cute.
Oh, so was it really attacked, or is it?
No, not so much. Dolorfic had kind of knocked one out, but when he got close to the carriage, he realized that they were trying to attack this overturned carriage because they were trying to get to some plants inside the carriage. And Dolorfic had enough like hunter knowledge to realize that the plants were like these very unique and specific regional plants that were likely stolen from these creatures.
Oh, okay, so someone did it bad.
Yes.
True.
So they managed to get the cart flipped back over and use some intimidation to get those merchants to give those plants back. The creatures just like gave the party a cool guy nod before they disappeared into the forest.
She just like left them like an acorn or something. You'd be like, "Thank you," and you're just like, "Huh?"
I mean, who knows? They might be helpful later in the future.
I love it. Just give them like a little acorn. They have no clue what that acorn does. Neither do you until they try to use it for something.
And then we'll see.
And yeah, then its true purpose is known.
It could be. They did, though, find something interesting on the second day of travel, because again, I rolled on a random table, and they came across the remains of, like, an old village, and they found some loot in there. It looked like someone was trying to hide some stolen loot. Most of it was just some generic stuff, except for a bowl-shaped pendant that they took some time to identify and figured out it was a bronze bowl pendant, which is used for, like, shoves and stuff. It was just, like, a generic... you come across a thing, there might be an item there on my table.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So they got a little trinket thing.
Yep.
Cool.
And then we ended with them getting to the last place, the town of Valorest, which is just a short distance away from Silver Hill, if you travel along the coast.
Ooh. So close.
Yeah, they are very close. So things are probably gonna start kicking off once they get in there.
I was gonna say, I mean, like, this is probably not even like the end, but just actually the beginning of like some crazy plot there that you have, because it's like, you know, I don't know. I don't think it's just gonna be like, well, here you go, Brima. There's just gonna be like a tearful goodbye. That's it. Nah, man, the city's burning down. I swear.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's just two demons.
No one brings a girl to a city and it doesn't just explode. All right.
Yeah, I'm very excited for everything that's going to be going on here, because I mean, even Fandrovo Jane, who I've been sitting on for months, a year now, I don't know how long. Whenever we started this game, I haven't got to do anything with her really because we haven't been close enough. So I'm very excited to get into like the last part of this arc, and then who knows what'll happen from there.
Cool. Oh, that's just very exciting.
Yeah, and then now there's Baruth and Koyel just somewhere off in the world.
Yeah, doing whatever. I don't know. Maybe Baruth wins the fighting tournament. That would be pretty cool. I would like that a lot. Personally, but definitely not telling you what to do, Calvin.
Maybe. I was honestly planning to roll some dice off screen and then see what happened.
True. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a really good session. It's always fun to hear about that game.
Yeah. Like so much of that was just flying by the seat of my pants, honestly. Because I thought they were just going to start traveling right away. So I was like, okay. Honestly, I was thinking in Valorest, they might come across the demon worm thing. And I had some indoor maps prepared for that. But they decided to stay in the city and do the ritual, which admittedly I should have seen coming when I gave them the option, but I didn't. But I also didn't expect them to have like a conversation about it and for it to get reveals and everything, so... But that's the whole point of these, like, improv narrative stories that we create playing these games.
Yeah, I always find it's kind of, like, tough to have, like, one player have, like, a secret that the players are kind of aware about, but the
characters aren't?
Yeah, because it makes it tough to trust that players aren't going to act on knowledge that characters don't have, right? It's like, you know, if someone's really not being suspicious, but you know that, like, out of context that they are, then it's like, you know, it makes it kind of tough, especially when you get those players who are just like, I don't like to not know everything. Who's just like, you know, super suspicious or get really mad or make it really difficult to have that kind of fun. But yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like I've probably been that for some groups before. But no, I think it worked out pretty well in this party because like it literally wasn't until this point that Delorphic and Brima actually knew what was going on.
I think it was a very good because it's like kind of wrapping up too, right? Like it's been ongoing for a while, so I think that like of all the times, like right before like, you know, the big saying goodbye, hopefully not blowing up the place, kind of parts. It's really good.
Yeah. I'm very happy with how everything turned out, and I hope next session, they will make it to Silver Hill, and I'll get to introduce Vendrovo, and she'll be super chilled, super cool. And there's a couple of demons out there, and I got to figure out what Zarnilla's next move is going to be.
Nice.
Yeah, her brother is not very subtle. He's just throwing guys at the problem, but Zarnilla, she'll have to be up to something different.
Damn it, my minions died. I better send more minions.
You're not wrong. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the this campaign it's always like a little fun kind of I would say like a small scale adventure. It's like very small scale. Like the only person I know that Brima's important to some context out there to your world, but like relatively like everybody else, like it's just like you going from one place to another. Like, you know, every time an NPC sees Brima, they're not thinking like, oh man, she's the savior of the universe. She's just like some girl.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I think it's like super cool and super kind of grounded, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've been enjoying about it the most. Like, it's relatively low stakes. I mean, there's certainly stakes, but they're not like world ending, at least as far as the party knows.
Yeah, at least as far as the party knows. Their job is like it's not stop the evil man from blowing up the place that you like. It's like, I have to get this small girl from one place to another.
Yeah. And there's certain people who don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that's about all I have to say on this session. Anything else you want to add before we roll into the outro?
Nah, man. Let's roll it up.
All right. Well, if you like this episode, please, like and subscribe and all the YouTube stuff that we keep forgetting to mention at the top of the video. If you want to see more of our stuff, check out the channel. We've got some character building videos that I think were pretty interesting, like for Lancer, Mutants and Masterminds, and that kind of thing. Also, we have weekly gaming streams, currently going through Gotham Knights and Skyrim and Mass Effect 3, which is going to be very sad when Mass Effect is over.
Yeah. No more Garrus. So sad.
Very sad. Additionally, linked below, we have links for all the other people we've talked to on here, especially all the Lancer third-party creators, so go definitely check out their stuff. I also want to shout out the Untold Stories Project channel, where I'm at on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, playing in various games. including the Gemstars Magical Girls game and Freedom League Dark in our multiverse hopping game. It's been both have been pretty interesting. I made a comment that if I had a nickel for every time I saw an alternate universe version of my previous player character who became an evil conqueror and then was defeated, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice.
2 whole nickels, eh? Nice.
So definitely go check out those games because yeah, it was really, so there was some really funny stuff in there that I want to talk about, but I'll tell Ramon off camera so I don't spoil anything for you guys. But other than that, I think that's all I have to say for now. Ramon, anything else, or are we gonna ride off into the sunset?
To the sunset.
All right. Well, for all of our demon-possessed GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.